10th of January and it's been a bit of a patchwork week. I'd hoped to get a video out before now, but I've been stuffed with the cold. I've had visitors from overseas and I've had some work to do. The work was last week, well, early in the week, and I needed to go out and find a bit of a route for an event that I'm doing this coming weekend, or next weekend rather, to go out into the desert. And I had a Land Rover Discovery. Now, I haven't driven a Discovery for quite a while, so there's a little bit of footage. It would have been churlish not to do something while I was out. But in the spirit of how good can you get at this sort of thing if you don't practice it, I thought I better take the camera out, and there's a few things that I learned as a result of that little exercise, which you will see shortly. One is that I need to use the lapel mic because the telephone picks up far too much extraneous sound. Two, I need to rehearse. I need to know what I'm saying so that I don't end up doing what I'm doing now, which is umming and awing, although, to be honest, it doesn't bother me that much. If it bothers you, let me know. But I need to get a selfie stick because I don't actually know how to hold an iPhone properly without either getting my finger across the end of the lens or being out of frame. And you'll see a bit of that. And I need to properly learn how to use the DJI gimbal. You'll see evidence of all of that, but you'll also see evidence of what I think is a slight improvement on my iMovie editing skills. And as Kevin Colby, who some of you may or may not be following, has said, if you don't do this, it isn't ever going to get any better. And he's absolutely correct. I was quite dispirited last week. I'd been doing little bits and I just didn't seem to be able to connect them up. I run out of the idea of a story, and then I thought, does it matter if you have a story? It will either be interesting or it won't. So here goes on the wee Land Rover bits, and we'll see what I manage to tack on to the end of it afterwards. Cheers. I've absolutely no idea if this is going to work because I can barely see myself. The car in the background is the Land Rover Discovery, that's the 360, quite a nice car too, and very useful out here. As you can probably see behind me, there's quite a bit of sand and a fair amount of desert. We've got falcon blinds here in front of us, and a big area for the falcon guys to work in, which they do in the evenings, nothing during the day. And then just generally not the Dubai skyline that you're used to seeing on Facebook or anywhere else. This is a completely different kettle of fish. It's quite open, quite deserted, and very, very quiet. I managed to snag a few hours in this charming thing. I've not driven one of these for maybe 4 years, but this really is a terrific car as I remember it. We launched it a long time ago, out in the desert, very similar conditions, but this is the 360 brake horse vehicle, which has 500 Newton meters of torque, and I won't bore you with all the rest of the figures. The point being that even on its 22-inch rims, it's quite a handy tool. And I've done all right getting all the way out here with this without having to reduce tyre pressures. So it's quite a handy piece of kit and has worked rather well for the day. I'm quite pleased with it. It's spacious, it's comfortable, it's easy to drive, you can see out of it. It does all the things you expect it to do, and although it's not to everyone's taste, I think it's a handsome thing. There have been a few facelifts since the launch. There's a tweaking around the lights and around those grills at the front, and various other bits of black paint have found themselves onto stuff that was painted other colours before. But actually, it hasn't fundamentally changed that much. And I think it's possibly all the better for it, It's not the most popular thing here in this part of the world, I am told, because, you know, we've spent certainly the last 3 years in Defenders, possibly longer. And it's usually Defenders that I find myself in, as you've probably seen from various other things. But this is really comfortable. It's really nice. It's just a sweet thing. I really like it. Still well off the beaten track. And still running nicely. And as you can see over the distance, the mast of Soren. We are actually still on Earth. That's the solar flare reflector from solar flare? No. Yeah, I suppose there's a solar park out there, and that's the main reflector. All the sunlight on the mirrors is concentrated onto that point, and then the heat is all taken down into the mast. It's odd. It really looks like a second sun, especially in the evening when the sun is setting. But we're right out in the middle of nowhere, as you can see. And testament to the car rather than to my driving is that I'm out here on full tire pressures. I haven't had to bother even dropping them. And it's not exactly firm running, but it is beautiful. And it's quiet apart from the engine sound. The Simpsons. Ba 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 ba. Do 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 do. Sorry about the singing. I couldn't resist it. This guy was just so much like the opening sequence from The Simpsons. But it's absolutely gorgeous out there. And really it doesn't feel at all like Dubai. It feels a bit like the Dubai I used to know 40 odd years ago when I came here first. What else is interesting about it is that at this time of the year in particular, there's quite a lot of wildlife about. There is a lot of camels and a lot of youngsters around. It's this time of the year is whatever the camel equivalent is for lambing season, but it's when the youngsters are around, and you have to drive very carefully and very slowly around about them because they get quite skittish. The other thing is that on that particular drive, further through the area, there is a feeding station for a small antelope. And what's been happening here is that the local operations have set up feeding stations to reintroduce these antelope. And there has been a hunting ban in place for quite a number of years. So you're not allowed to hunt them, and they are slowly getting them back into a manageable population again. And it's really nice to see them around. They'll sit and they'll watch you, and if you don't move, they'll eventually come to you to find out a little bit more. But you need to stay quiet, and you need to stay still. And that can be some of the best minutes that you have out in the desert when it's just completely silent. In other news, I mentioned that I had visitors this week, and so an old college chum, George Mackay, and his wife Moira came out on a visit on their way to Australia. Now, Moira's daughter and her husband, Kirsten and Andy, had been out tail end of last year, and I'd taken them out for a bit of a squirt in the desert in my car. We just had a bit of a potter about, nothing too dramatic. But Andy got to drive it, and he thoroughly enjoyed himself. They had a great time. And, you know, there was lots of telephone calls and mentions of how much fun it was. But then, last night, George and Moira presented me with a package that had come from Kirsten. And I thought, oh, I wonder what this is. This will be quite interesting. And so they'd sent this wee Land Rover. Now, it's an old style 110 Land Rover. It's not anything that I've ever had. I had a very early one 10 years ago, but in white. The unique part about this one is that she's taken the trouble to go and have made up number plates that spell out my name, front and rear, and had them applied to this model before sending it out. I think that's a lovely gesture, and I was really pleased with that. It's an interesting scale, 134, which is a bit of an odd one, but it'll sit on a shelf because it's mine. Right then, I think that'll do me. That's 10 minutes or so. There's quite a lot going on. I'm heading out to Qatar tomorrow, so I need to get packed and sorted, although it's only for a day. That'll be back into another piece of desert with a Defender 110, I expect, to find another route in another country. But that's what we do. It's good fun. And then I'm back for a couple of days, I think, going into the event that this video has been about. And then straight into the Dubai 24-hour endurance race. I used to be involved in that quite extensively about 4 or 5 years ago, and then kind of dropped off the scene a little bit, due to various circumstances. But I got a telephone call the other day. They were asking me if I would come back and reprise my clerking duties. So it'll be interesting to see how I get on. One of the shifts is 18 hours, so I have to do practice, qualifying, and night practice on the Friday. Go and do the Defender event on the Saturday, and then hightail it straight up to the Autodrome, and I'll be there overnight Saturday and all the way through till the finish at about 2 o'clock on Sunday. And then I think I'll probably be knackered. So this may be the last little bit of video for a number of days. This is Fraser Martin. If you've enjoyed it, give us a like. And if you haven't, then say so. We'll see what needs to be changed, if anything. I'm quite enjoying the journey. I hope you are too. Thanks for tuning in.